Hello and welcome to the Career Change Studio. This is the place to design and create a new working life so that you can live the way that you want and need in your next chapter. I'm Dana Stevens, certified career change coach, and I'm here to help you work out your next career move. I'm going to inspire you to think about this transition in brand new ways so that you can think differently about yourself and what's possible for you. You'll also learn how to build up your belief and self-confidence so that you can finally start taking action. This is about so much more than just getting another job. This is about changing the way you live your life for the better. Hello, and how are you doing this week? That's actually what I want to talk to you about. How are you? Because this week is Mental Health Awareness Week in the UK, and I wanted to mark it by talking about the mental health impacts of staying in a job that's no longer working for you and why you don't have to stay stuck in that. Things can change. And before we get into that, I want to explore today how this is about more than just the practical frustration of being in the wrong job. It's also about the real emotional and mental weight of it, the way it can make you question yourself, the stories you can start telling yourself about your own self-worth and your own capabilities, and the toll it takes when you try to keep pushing through rather than recognizing that something genuinely needs to change. I also want to offer something that I hope will feel like a relief rather than a pressure, because the thing I want you to take away from this episode above anything else is this. If you're struggling right now, if work is making you feel anxious or exhausted or low or just unlike yourself, the most likely reason is not that something is wrong with you. It's that your job or role no longer fits. You're no longer a match, right? And a mismatch, once recognized, can be addressed. That's the good news. So let's talk about all of this properly, because I want to start with the internal experience. I think this is the part that causes the most unnecessary suffering and the part that weirdly gets talked about the least. Because when you're struggling in your job, when every Sunday is like taken over with this rising creep of the Sunday scaries, right? When you're going through the motions of a working day that used to feel manageable and now just feels like something you've got to survive, one of the first places your mind goes is inwards, into your own brain. You start asking yourself, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just cope? Other people seem to manage, other people in the same role, the same team, the same industry, they appear to be fine. So if they're fine and I'm not, surely the problem must be me. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. Maybe I'm not resilient. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I should be able to handle this better. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this kind of work. And the longer those stories run, the worse it tends to make everything. Because on top of the actual difficulty of your job, you're now also carrying the weight of feeling like you're failing at coping with it. The job is already hard enough. Believing that you're somehow not good enough for finding it hard just makes everything even heavier. But the thing is, the comparison you're making is not a fair one. You're comparing your internal experience, what's going on in your own head, your own brain, the full weight of everything that you're feeling with other people's external presentation, what they're choosing to show to the world. You can't see what's going on inside the person in the next office or on the other end of the video call or even in the next desk from you. You are seeing their surface, not their reality. And surfaces are almost always more composed than the reality beneath them. You're also not comparing like with like. Everyone is dealing with such different circumstances, different life pressures, different levels of support at home, different histories, different capacities at different points in their lives. The fact that someone else appears to be coping says nothing meaningful about what you should be able to cope with. Nothing at all. So if you've been telling yourself that there's something wrong with you for struggling, I want to offer you that you can put that story down right now, because it's not serving you, it's not helping you, and in most cases, it's not even true. So if the problem isn't you, what is it? In my experience, more often than not, it's that you and your job are no longer a match. There's a misalignment between who you are now, what you need now, what you value and want from your working life, and what the job is currently offering you. And here's the important thing about that. That mismatch is not permanent. That's not a judgment on your character. That's not evidence of failure. This is just what happens when things change. Because the reality is things do change. You change, right? The person who took this job 5 years ago or 10 or 15 is not the same person where you are now, right? Sitting where you are now, in the job that you are now. Your priorities have shifted. What matters to you has evolved. What you're willing to put up with, maybe what you're able to put up with, and what you're not has probably become clearer, and in some cases more non-negotiable. The thing that once felt exciting or meaningful about this work may no longer feel that way, and that is not a failing. That is just part of life. And do you know what? It's really likely that the job has changed too. Most have. Roles evolve, companies restructure, leadership changes. The culture that made somewhere feel like a good place to work can shift significantly over time. The role you said yes to can often become quite different from the role you actually end up doing. And that gap between what you signed up for and what you're actually living, that can take its toll. Or maybe your industry's changed. Because listen, as we know, the world certainly has. That is undeniable, right? Both in terms of the economics, technology, even politics. Let's not even go there. But those things affect pretty much every single industry. And there has been seismic changes in so many industries and creeping small incremental changes in others, but change nonetheless. And the work that you were doing that once felt purposeful or rewarding to you can start to feel out of step with who you've become, what you believe, what kind of impact you want to have. And look, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It can just simply be a sign of growth. Any of these things, or a combination of them, can mean that your job is no longer a match. And this mismatch, right, this misalignment sustained over time and without a path through it can have consequences, real ones, for your mental health, for your physical health, for your sense of yourself and your capacity for the rest of your life. So let's talk about the impact of staying in a role that no longer matches, because I think lots of people underestimate it. And I think people underestimate it partly because the cost arrives gradually, one small erosion at a time rather than all at once. And it starts with the smaller things. First, your confidence gets chipped away at, often gradually at the beginning, but soon it can have a real impact when you're spending your days doing work that doesn't fit. The way you begin to doubt your own judgment, your own abilities, your own worth, because the daily experience of no longer fitting or being able to be yourself has a cumulative effect on how you see yourself. Then there's the sleep, the lying awake, replaying difficult conversations or dreading the next day, the tiredness that's not just physical, but something deeper. A tiredness that rest can't solve because you're not just tired in your body, you're tired with all of it. And then the anxiety can creep in. It can start as a low hum of worry that becomes the background of your days. The way your nervous system starts to treat the work environment as a threat rather than a neutral place. This can show up in physical symptoms, the tight chest, the shallow breathing, the sense of being permanently on edge. That comes from being in a situation that doesn't feel safe in the most fundamental way. And for some people, it goes even further, right? The cumulative effect of sustained stress, of pushing through without relief, can tip into what we might recognize as burnout. That profound exhaustion, the disconnection from the work, the feeling of being completely depleted with nothing left to give. This is different from being tired. It's much more serious depletion, and it often requires more than just a bit of rest, right? Not just a holiday or a long weekend, but proper recovery. And for some people, the sustained experience of being in the wrong place for too long, the hopelessness that can come from not being able to see a way out, the grief of a working life that doesn't feel like yours, can contribute to something that starts to look more like depression. A persistent low mood, a loss of interest in things that used to matter, a heaviness that you just can't shift. And I really want to be careful here and draw a distinction that is important, right? Because feeling low, anxious, exhausted, and depleted because of your work circumstances is real and significant and deserves to be taken seriously. But that is different from clinical depression and clinical burnout, which are medical conditions that need proper clinical support, not just a change of circumstances. So I just want to say, if what you are experiencing is making it genuinely difficult to function each day, please do speak to your GP or a mental health professional. Support exists and it's there for exactly this situation. And reaching out for it is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're taking your health seriously, that you're not willing to sacrifice yourself and your health for a job. And what I want to say about all of this is that the situation is not hopeless, even if you feel yourself stuck in this place at the moment. It really isn't. It is the opposite, because even though the cost is real and real enough that it deserves to be addressed and recognized rather than pushed through, because pushing through really isn't always the answer, and in some cases, pushing through without addressing it can make things worse, there is hope. One of the things that Mental Health Awareness Week is about is reducing the stigma about talking about how we're actually doing. And I think this applies really directly to the experience of struggling in your work, because there's still, even now, a sense that admitting you're not coping is somehow a professional failure, that keeping up appearances is the done thing, that the right answer is to manage it privately and get on with it. And I really want to push back on that, because saying out loud that something isn't working, whether it's to a trusted friend or a partner or a GP or a therapist or a coach, that's not giving up. It's really the opposite. It's the beginning of showing your strength, of actually addressing what you're experiencing rather than trying to manage it in silence indefinitely. And like I said before, if what you're experiencing feels really serious and your mental health is significantly affected and you are struggling to function in your day-to-day life, please, please seek out some help. A referral to a counsellor or a therapist may be exactly what you need right now, and there is absolutely no shame in it. In fact, it's one of the most responsible and self-aware things that you can do. And I also think maybe here it might be useful just to say something about how that kind of support and the work that I do can sit alongside each other. It's not in competition. Several of my clients work with a counsellor or a therapist at the same time as working with me on their career, right? The two are not in conflict. The therapeutic work addresses the deeper emotional and psychological territory, and the coaching work focuses on the practical and forward-looking question of what comes next and how to get there. Both matter, both serve different needs. And for some people, having both running at the same time is exactly the right approach. So the main thing I want to say to you is you do not have to keep carrying this alone. Whatever the right kind of support looks like for you right now, it's out there, it exists, and reaching out for it is not a failure. It's the first act of genuinely looking after yourself, and you deserve that. So for me, when I was in my corporate role, thankfully I didn't quite reach that stage of clinical burnout that I have seen some of my clients having to deal with. But I often describe it as I felt like I was just teetering on the brink of it, like balancing on the edge, sometimes feeling like I was tipping over and sometimes feeling like I could pull myself back. And so often I was pushing through, pushing beyond the limits of what my body and my brain could really handle. When I worked in my corporate job, my young children at the time really barely slept. They were not sleepers. And yet I still got up early each morning, got myself to work, commuted over an hour, put in a full day. trying to make sure no one would guess I'd only had a few hours sleep, if that. And I'd come home, put the kids to bed, get my laptop out, start again, trying to do the real focused work I hadn't had time to do when I'd been flat out in meetings all day. So I'd work into the early hours, crawl into bed, then do it all again. And I was hanging on each week until the weekend, hanging on through each pitch or busy period for my next holiday. Except it was all busy periods, right? I kept thinking, it's going to slow down soon, it's going to get quieter. And it didn't, right? And when people asked me how I was, my first response was always, busy. I'm so busy. I'm really busy. But even that, right, that response didn't even come close to describing how I was actually feeling inside. The juggling, the stress, the overwhelm. And finding coaching and mindset work was the first time I even was able to recognize what I was pushing myself through. And the first time I even allowed myself to admit that maybe I didn't want this type of life anymore. Maybe I couldn't carry on this way, but maybe I didn't want to. That I'd actually like to feel different. I'd like to feel calm again. I'd like to feel more like myself again. I'd actually like to choose to slow down and breathe. And admitting that to myself was the first step. And I used coaching tools and support to help me identify a different type of life for myself. And gradually, not at first, but gradually, I started to believe that it could actually be possible for someone like me. I started to think, wow, maybe I can just step off this corporate treadmill. Can I do that? Maybe I can. Maybe I can just choose to live differently. And I worked on building up that belief, did thought work around it, started to investigate ideas and came up with a plan that all led me to retraining as a coach and starting my own business and working flexibly from home, being my own boss, having time for my family, for my children, for myself. Time to exercise, care for myself, look after my head. And what I know to be true now from working with so many women through exactly this kind of experience is that a career change, when it's the right one, done in the right way, with the right support, can genuinely transform how you feel. And that transforms how you live your life. Not overnight and not magically, but over time and in ways that are really deeply significant. When you move into work that fits, work that aligns with your values and your strengths and the kind of life you actually want to be living, the background noise quietens. The low hum of dread that has become so familiar that you almost stop noticing it, that lifts. The Sunday evenings start to feel different. Not perfect, not without challenge, but without that particular weight. And the confidence that's been eroding starts to build. Not because someone told you to feel more confident, because you are developing tools to take control of your own confidence and you are finding out what you are capable of and helping yourself to go after it and push yourself to achieve things because you are doing work that gives you a sense of achievement and purpose that matters to you rather than work that's just taking from you, that's draining you. The space that opens up when you're no longer using all your energy just to get through the week, just to survive, that becomes available for the rest of your life, to the rest of your life, right? For your health, for the people that matter to you, for your relationships, for finding joy, for finding fun. Remember that? For the things outside of work that restore you, that give back to you rather than just deplete you. And the pressure that you've been putting on yourself, the relentless need to prove yourself, to carry on working at 100%, 150% capacity, to never show weakness, to always deliver regardless of what it costs you, that can start to ease too. Because when you're in the right fit, you do not have to keep performing against the grain. You can simply do good work in a way that's sustainable. And that is a completely different experience of working life. Like I said, I'm not saying this is an overnight thing. A career change can be a significant undertaking, but it can be simpler than you think. It can be achievable for someone like you. It is possible. And it is so much easier, I promise you, than struggling through what is not working right now. Staying in a job that's continuing to affect you in so many ways. It just takes clarity and courage, a little bit of courage to start with. That will grow over time when you get the right support and when you give yourself time. But it is possible. And for the women I've worked with who've come through this, they all describe it as one of the best decisions they've made, not just for their careers, but importantly, for their lives. And if you are in that difficult place right now, if work is affecting your mental health and your sense of self, and you're wondering whether it's ever going to be possible to feel differently, I want you to know that it is. You are not stuck in this permanently, and you don't have to figure out the way through this alone. So just before we finish today, I just want to remind you that if you're struggling in your job right now, if it's affecting how you feel about yourself and your life, you're not broken, you're not weak, you're not failing at something just because other people make it look easier. You are a person in difficult circumstances who has been trying to push through something that was not designed to be pushed through indefinitely. The most likely explanation for how you're feeling is not because you're failing. It's that you and your job are no longer a match, and you can do something about that. And if what you're experiencing feels serious and you need clinical support, please reach out to your GP or mental health professional. The support is there for exactly this, and you deserve to have access to it. And if you're ready to start thinking about what comes next for you, about what a career that actually fits your life might look like and how to get there, the link to book a free consultation with me is in the show notes. Come and have a conversation. Come wherever you are with any kind of messy mindset that you've got. That's exactly where we're going to start, okay? Thank you for listening today. If this episode has resonated with you, please do think about sharing it with someone who might need to hear it, because there are so many people carrying this, this kind of mental load. And especially this week for Mental Health Awareness, if we can make sure that friends and colleagues and family know it's okay to talk about these things, that it's something that lots of people go through and probably will all go through at some point in their life. Sometimes just knowing that someone else understands can be the thing that starts to change everything for someone. That's it for this week. Take care of yourself, and bye for now. And if you want to start making changes to your working life, come and talk to me. You can book a free consultation with me where we'll talk about your personal situation, what's really holding you back, and what you can do differently to start making changes. I'll let you know what type of career change coaching is going to help you, and you can ask me any questions about your personal situation or about my proven process, the Life First Career Method, a method that helps people like you change your career so that you can change your life. Just visit my website, danastevens.com. That's DANASTEVENS.com, and click on the link to book a consultation. Or you can find the link in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this podcast, make sure you get your weekly fix of inspiration and career change guidance by clicking follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to rate and review the podcast, that would really help me get this in front of people who also might be feeling stuck and lost. So I'd really appreciate your help. And if you know anyone, friends, family, even colleagues, who might be thinking about changing careers, please do share this podcast with them. You might just be the person that helps them change their lives for the better.